From their hidden craft, Aaron and Zayla exchanged glances. They hadn't expected this reaction, nor had they anticipated how deeply Liam's instincts would align with their experiment. In his urgency, Liam had become attuned to the smallest details, and the faint shimmer was all it took to affirm his suspicions. He was convinced now that something was out there, and the thrill of discovery electrified him. In the days that followed, he became restless, spending less time with his stargazing group and more time alone, walking the woods near his home, seeking out that elusive shimmer he had witnessed. Each night he returned with new stories of strange lights, of sounds too soft and too coordinated to be random. Nora noticed his transformation, saw the intensity in his eyes, and grew concerned. She reminded him that sometimes the mind could create connections where none existed, that his fixation might be clouding his judgment. But her words fell on deaf ears. Liam was beyond caution now. He was chasing a reality he felt existed just out of reach, driven by an urge to peel back the veil that separated his world from theirs. In the quiet suburbs of a small town, Liam, a young astrophysicist, was captivated by an idea that most people dismissed as a conspiracy. Unlike his colleagues, who saw their telescopes and equations as tools to study distant stars and planets, Liam had become obsessed with something different, something unsettling. He'd read about the zoo hypothesis, the theory that an advanced alien civilization might be watching Earth, observing humanity as if we were animals in a cosmic zoo. And while it sounded far-fetched, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, there was some truth to it. One night, as he sat on his porch looking up at the vast night sky, he couldn't help but wonder if someone was looking back. He spoke about it sometimes with his friend Nora, who was a biology teacher. She would laugh, thinking Liam's imagination was running wild. But Liam wasn't joking. He believed that our world might be carefully monitored by unseen watchers who had the power to observe every move humanity made without us ever knowing. Aaron and Zayla watched his transformation with fascination, observing how Liam's quest seemed to shape him, drawing him deeper into a connection that he didn't fully understand. For them, this experiment had become something different, something almost personal. Liam's determination, his unyielding drive to uncover the truth, had made him stand out among the countless beings they had observed over centuries. They found themselves discussing him at length, analyzing every detail of his behavior, debating whether they should reveal themselves or remain hidden. Zayla was intrigued by his resilience, admiring his courage to face the unknown, while Aaron remained cautious, warning that humans, in their current state, were still unpredictable and volatile. But both of them felt a strange, unfamiliar sense of responsibility toward him, as if by drawing him into this hidden world, they had also become part of his story. Liam's curiosity was relentless, and one evening he decided to test a theory of his own. He reasoned that if these alien watchers existed, they wouldn't necessarily be in flying saucers or strange spacecraft hovering over cities. Instead, they could be hiding in plain sight, using advanced cloaking technology that rendered them undetectable. He shared his idea with Nora, who was intrigued but skeptical. Together, they set up a series of cameras around his house and some nearby woods, hoping to capture any strange anomalies. It was a long shot, and they both knew it. For weeks they waited, reviewing hours of footage with nothing to show for their efforts. Yet Liam was convinced they were on the verge of something. Then, one night, he spotted something unusual on one of the recordings. A small, hovering light moved silently through the trees, vanishing as quickly as it had appeared. Nora laughed it off, saying it was probably a firefly or a drone. But Liam felt a thrill of excitement. He couldn't prove it, but he believed they had just captured a glimpse of something or someone watching them. As the nights passed, Liam became more certain that Earth was indeed being observed, and his thoughts grew bolder. He wondered, why would these alien observers remain hidden? The answer, he realized, could be simple. Perhaps they were studying us as we might study animals in a zoo. But instead of physical cages, humanity was contained by its own limitations, unable to travel to distant stars or see beyond the visible spectrum. Nora was hesitant to accept this, arguing that if aliens truly existed, they would have made contact by now. But Liam countered with an idea that left her silent. What if we weren't ready? Perhaps these aliens, with their advanced intelligence, saw humanity as a species still maturing, still learning to handle its power responsibly. In their eyes, Earth could be a young, chaotic world not yet prepared for contact. They might be waiting for humans to reach a certain level of peace and understanding before stepping forward. One night, as Liam wandered the woods alone, he stumbled upon a clearing where the air felt strangely thick, charged with an energy that made his skin tingle. He stood there, transfixed, feeling as though he was on the verge of some monumental revelation. The stars above seemed to pulse with an unseen rhythm, aligning themselves in patterns that felt deliberate, intentional. In that moment he felt a presence around him, a gentle pressure that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. He whispered into the stillness, speaking to the unseen watchers he had come to believe in, asking them to show themselves, to give him a sign that he was right. As the words left his lips, the air shifted, and for the briefest moment, the shimmer appeared again, a figure, faint and indistinct, but unmistakably there. It lingered, hovering at the edge of his vision, then disappeared, leaving Liam standing alone in the clearing, his heart pounding with a mixture of terror and exhilaration. One night, after a long conversation, Liam and Nora fell asleep under the stars, lying on blankets in his backyard. As they drifted off, they joked about the possibility of aliens peering down at them. Little did they know, someone or something was watching. High above, an invisible craft hovered, cloaked and silent. Inside, two alien observers, Aaron and Zela, watched Earth through intricate screens. They were fascinated by the young species below, creatures filled with curiosity yet burdened by conflicts and fears. Zela was particularly intrigued by humans' capacity for emotion and creativity. She observed Liam and Nora's interactions, their laughter, their debates, and the subtle way they seemed to care for each other. It was unlike anything she'd seen before, even in the countless worlds she'd visited. Aaron, on the other hand, was more skeptical. He saw humans as unpredictable, prone to aggression, and careless with their environment. To him, humans were a species to be watched cautiously, perhaps even with a hint of wariness. The experience haunted him, leaving him more convinced than ever that the watchers were real, that he was part of something far greater than he could comprehend. He became more withdrawn, devoting himself entirely to his pursuit, losing track of time and even his friendships. Nora grew increasingly worried, watching as he became consumed by his need to understand, to make contact. She tried to reach out to him, reminding him of the beauty in the unknown, urging him to remember that some mysteries were meant to remain unanswered. But Liam was past the point of return. He had glimpsed something profound, and he couldn't let it go. Every night he returned to the clearing, calling out to the watchers, hoping for another sign, another flicker of acknowledgement. For months, Aaron and Zela continued their observations, sending back reports to their home planet. They documented everything: the humans' triumphs and mistakes, their conflicts and innovations. They were particularly interested in the rapid technological advancements humans had made, wondering if this young civilization would soon discover the ability to detect their presence. One night, as Liam and Nora continued their nightly stargazing, Aaron and Zela's craft malfunctioned. The cloaking device flickered, causing the craft to become visible for a fraction of a second. Liam, with his eyes trained on the sky, saw the brief flash. He turned to Nora, his heart racing. "Did you see that?" he asked. Nora shrugged, dismissing it as lightning or a glitch in their equipment. But Liam was convinced. That flicker, however brief, was all he needed. He knew he'd seen something unexplainable, something real. It was as if the watchers had accidentally revealed themselves, confirming Liam's deepest suspicions. From their hidden vantage point, Aaron and Zela watched in silence, feeling a growing sense of unease. Their experiment had taken on a life of its own, and they found themselves wondering if they had crossed a line, if they had interfered in ways they hadn't anticipated. Liam's persistence had stirred something within them, a sense of connection that defied their mission's purpose. Yet they couldn't look away. They were as captivated by him as he was by the mystery they represented. And so they watched, hovering in their cloaked craft above the clearing, feeling the weight of the choice before them. Should they reveal themselves and shatter his understanding, or remain hidden, preserving the delicate balance that had kept their worlds apart? It was a choice they had never anticipated, a choice that could change everything. And as Liam stood in the clearing, gazing up at the stars, he felt a strange sense of calm, as if he knew that, somehow, the answer he sought was already within him, waiting to be discovered. In the days that followed, Liam became more obsessed than ever. He scoured the internet, diving into forums and obscure scientific theories, searching for anything that could explain what he'd seen. Nora grew concerned, urging him to let it go, but Liam was relentless. He believed that if they were being watched, then humanity deserved to know. He even wrote a letter to a scientific journal, proposing the zoo hypothesis as more than just a theory, but as a plausible explanation for the absence of contact with extraterrestrial life. The letter was ignored by the scientific community, but Liam wasn't deterred. He knew what he had seen. And in the quiet moments when he lay alone, staring at the stars, he couldn't shake the feeling that out there, somewhere, Aaron and Zayla were still watching, hidden and silent, studying him as if he were part of a grand experiment. Liam returned to the clearing each night, feeling a gravity there that held him captive. The air was charged, as though the trees, the grass, even the very ground beneath him had secrets they wanted to share. His friends had drifted away, Nora's concern had become almost a distant echo, and he no longer spoke to anyone about his experiences. This had become his private world, a place where he alone held the key to the mystery. As days turned into weeks, he grew more certain that his watchers were near, that every pulse of light or faint rustling in the leaves was a sign, a whispered message only he could hear. On one particularly still night, he felt a deeper awareness settle over him, a sense that he was not just being watched but studied, his thoughts and movements catalogued, recorded, as if by the careful gaze of a biologist observing a rare species in its natural habitat. The thought unnerved him but also thrilled him. He was part of something extraordinary, and he could sense that the watchers felt it too. Aaron and Zayla too were affected by their accidental revelation. They had broken protocol, however briefly, and risked exposing their presence. Yet they felt an odd connection to the young man who had seen their craft. Zayla felt a strange admiration for his persistence, his willingness to question the unknown. Aaron, however, remained cautious, reminding Zayla that human curiosity could quickly turn to fear or hostility. But as they continued to observe, both felt a growing respect for Liam's unwavering determination. In a way, he reminded them of their own species in its youth, eager to understand the universe yet held back by its limitations. It was a delicate balance, observing without interfering, learning without revealing. And so they continued their watch, blending back into the shadows, hidden from sight, silently cheering for humanity to one day join them among the stars. In the vessel cloaked above, Aaron and Zayla observed with a blend of curiosity and growing hesitation. They had come to understand him in ways that transcended their usual analyses. His emotions, his fears, his dreams had become intertwined with their study. Yet they couldn't deny the discomfort settling between them, the ethical ambiguity of what they were doing, of keeping him on the edge of a revelation he wasn't equipped to handle. Aaron, the cautious one, argued that their duty was to remain hidden, to avoid contaminating the natural course of humanity. But Zayla saw something more, a chance, perhaps, to bridge an unspoken divide between their species, to finally understand humanity not as a distant, abstract phenomenon, but as a shared experience. Torn between loyalty to their mission and an inexplicable pull toward Liam, they debated silently, feeling the weight of a choice that could reshape everything they understood about themselves. Liam and Nora would never know the truth of the watchers above, nor would they understand how close they had come to uncovering one of the universe's deepest secrets. As Liam looked up at the stars each night, he could feel something, an unexplainable connection, a sense that he was not alone. And somewhere, high above, Aaron and Zayla would look down on Earth, their screens filled with images of a young man and woman staring into the cosmos, unaware that their lives had become part of a silent, cosmic zoo, one that would continue for as long as humanity remained in the dark. That night, as Liam stood in the clearing, a faint hum filled the air, a sound so low and resonant it seemed to vibrate within his bones. He looked up, heart pounding, scanning the dark sky for any sign. The stars seemed to blur, shifting subtly until they formed a pattern he recognized from childhood. Orion's belt, his first constellation, the one he used to trace in the night sky with his father's old telescope. As he watched, mesmerized, the hum grew louder, filling the space around him with an energy that felt alive, aware. It was as if the universe was finally answering him, calling back across the expanse of his questions. Suddenly a beam of light appeared, faint but unmistakable, piercing through the night and illuminating the clearing in an otherworldly glow. He froze, caught between fear and wonder, as the light seemed to draw closer, solidifying into a shape, a figure, tall and slender, cloaked in a shimmering, translucent material that looked like liquid stardust. As the nights wore on, Liam's curiosity only deepened, and his gaze to the stars grew sharper, more intense. He began sharing his theories with anyone who would listen, gathering a small group of fellow stargazers who, like him, felt the presence of something beyond comprehension. They spent countless hours together, camping under the open sky, pointing telescopes, tracking every unusual light, every strange sound. Liam had started to feel less like an observer and more like a participant in some cosmic game, unknowingly drawing closer to the watchers above. And perhaps, high above, Aaron and Zayla watched even more intently, aware that this simple human had somehow sensed the invisible thread connecting him to them. For the first time, their study had shifted from observation to something more, a strange, mutual curiosity, as if they, too, had become a part of the cosmic mystery they'd sworn to simply watch from afar. Liam felt his breath catch, his mind struggling to process the surreal sight before him. This was no shimmer at the edge of his vision, this was real, tangible, standing just a few feet away. The figure's face was obscured, but he sensed its gaze on him, an intelligence far beyond his comprehension assessing him with quiet intensity. His heart raced, 1,000 questions crowding his mind, yet he found himself unable to speak. The figure tilted its head, a gesture that seemed almost human, almost familiar, as if it too was experiencing a profound curiosity, a wonder that mirrored his own. For a moment they stood in silence, two beings from worlds separated by light years, yet bound together by the same insatiable need to know, to connect. The figure raised a hand, a simple gesture, but one that carried a gravity he couldn't ignore. And in that moment, Liam knew this was no casual encounter, no accidental meeting. This was a choice, a deliberate act of trust that went beyond observation. As he reached out to the figure, his hand trembling, he felt a surge of energy flow between them, a connection that transcended language, time, even species. Images flooded his mind, visions of distant galaxies, of worlds teeming with life, of civilizations that had risen and fallen in the cosmic dance. He saw glimpses of Aaron and Zayla, their lives, their world, their own journey of exploration and understanding. He felt their hopes, their fears, their fascination with the mysteries of existence, and in that instant he understood the truth of their presence. They weren't here to conquer or control, they were here to witness, to learn, driven by the same questions that kept him awake at night. They were observers, caretakers of knowledge, bound by a promise to preserve the sanctity of the universe's secrets. As Liam's fascination grew, so did the quiet tension between him and the unseen watchers. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was onto something bigger than he could comprehend, and his late-night gatherings with his group of stargazers became almost ritualistic. They would whisper theories under the blanket of stars, poring over star charts, analyzing flickers of light in the sky, and combing through historical accounts of unexplained phenomena. It was as if every mystery of the universe had suddenly become urgent, something begging to be understood. On the other side of the galaxy, in their hidden vessel, Aaron and Zayla watched with something that might have been amusement, or perhaps the closest thing their species could feel to wonder. Every night, Liam's efforts became more intense, more determined, and it was almost as if he knew he was on the brink of discovering a truth that had eluded humankind for centuries. He could feel it, a pulse beneath the fabric of reality, a rhythm connecting all living things in the cosmos, and he believed if he listened hard enough, if he pushed just a little further, he might finally glimpse what lay beyond. Just as quickly as it had begun, the connection faded, leaving Liam standing alone once more in the clearing, his hand still outstretched to the empty air. The figure had vanished, leaving behind only the faint hum that slowly dissipated into the night. He looked around, feeling a strange mix of awe and sorrow, knowing that he had been given a gift that few would ever understand. He understood now that he would never truly be alone, that somewhere, in the vast stretches of the cosmos, there were beings who had watched him, learned from him, and perhaps even cared in their own way. The stars above seemed brighter, more vivid, as if they were pulsing with a secret rhythm that only he could hear. He stood there, feeling the weight of the encounter settle into him, changing him in ways he couldn't yet comprehend. Yet, as the nights passed, Liam felt something else creeping into his mind, a shadow of doubt, a sense of vulnerability that hadn't been there before. What if this pursuit of knowledge led to a revelation that humanity wasn't prepared for? What if the Watchers were something far more complex, more incomprehensible than anything he could imagine? Despite these doubts, his curiosity was insatiable, and he found himself pushing the boundaries of his investigation. He started researching signals that astronomers had intercepted over the years, unexplained frequencies from distant galaxies that seemed to pulse with a strange, almost organic regularity. He read theories of scientists who believed these signals were nothing more than cosmic noise, random bursts from dying stars or black holes. But Liam couldn't shake the feeling that there was something deliberate about them, as if they were crafted to sound mundane, to blend in, unnoticed, like whispers in the vast, empty corridors of space. His group of stargazers began to sense his intensity and grew wary, cautioning him not to lose himself in his quest for answers. But for Liam, there was no turning back. As if responding to Liam's heightened awareness, Aaron and Zayla began to experiment with their observation methods. They no longer simply watched passively. Instead, they started to introduce subtle anomalies into Liam's environment, testing the limits of his perception. One evening, as he sat alone under the stars, he noticed an odd pattern in the nearby forest, a rhythmic rustling in the leaves, synchronized in a way that didn't seem natural. He held his breath, listening, his heart racing as he tried to determine if it was a mere trick of the wind or something else entirely. He scanned the tree line with his flashlight, eyes narrowed, searching for any sign of movement. It was only a moment, a fleeting sensation, but he swore he saw something shimmer in the darkness, a faint outline, almost transparent, like the surface of a pond disturbed by a gentle breeze. He stumbled backward, adrenaline pulsing through him, certain he had just glimpsed something beyond human understanding. In their hidden vessel, Aaron and Zayla watched in silence, knowing they had crossed a boundary that could never be undone. They felt a mixture of satisfaction and melancholy, realizing that their study had led them to a deeper understanding, not just of humanity but of themselves. For the first time, they had broken the silent pact of the observers, had reached out and touched the life they had once vowed to watch from afar. It was a small act, perhaps insignificant in the grand scale of the universe, but it was theirs, a choice they had made together, a decision that would resonate through the quiet corridors of their history. As they prepared to leave, they knew that they would carry this moment with them, a reminder that even in a universe filled with endless mysteries, there were connections that defied explanation, bonds that could not be catalogued or contained. Liam stood in the clearing until dawn, watching as the stars faded into the soft light of morning, feeling a profound sense of peace. He knew he would never speak of this night, never share the details of what he had seen. Some truths, he realized, were meant to remain secret, hidden within the heart where they could grow and take root. He returned home that morning changed, his questions finally silenced, his heart filled with a quiet certainty that he had glimpsed the edge of something eternal, something that would stay with him for the rest of his life. As he closed his eyes, he could still feel the echo of that cosmic hum, a reminder that in the vast loneliness of the universe he had found, if only for a moment, a connection that bridged worlds. And as the first rays of sunlight filtered through his window, he smiled, knowing that he would always look to the stars with a newfound wonder, forever aware of the watchers who gazed back from the shadows of